Zelensky is a man with infinite lifelines. No one was giving him more than 6 months when Russian tanks rolled in. But has his luck finally run out? We will tell you all about it, but before that, if you're a fan of non-corporate funded free news and analysis, you've landed on the right YouTube channel. Okay, let's begin. The situation in Ukraine presents a critical juncture for the future of democracy within the nation. President Volodymyr Zelensky, while not explicitly identifying himself as a dictator, has undertaken actions aimed at consolidating his power and impeding democratic processes. His actions and rhetoric suggest a relentless ambition to maintain authority, disregarding democratic norms. One of the most alarming actions by President Zelensky has been the postponement of elections, justified through the imposition of martial law. This maneuver effectively disenfranchises the Ukrainian populace, denying them the essential democratic right to select their governance. This decision has amplified calls for the citizenry for Zelensky's removal, perceiving him as veering towards authoritarianism driven by an unyielding lust for power and autonomy in decision-making. Historically, Zelensky has deferred elections, actions that critics argue were influenced by external pressures from Western allies. During a pivotal visit to Brussels in mid-2023 by Ukrainian officials, discussions were held regarding the organization of Ukraine's inaugural post-conflict elections, attracting considerable interest from the European Union. Nonetheless, the specter of Russian meddling loomed large, posing a significant concern for the integrity of the electoral process. Ukraine's chief electoral officer Ole Dydenko highlighted the necessity of safeguarding against Russian efforts to subvert Ukrainian democracy by infiltrating it with pro-Russian elements. In response, deliberation with European counterparts explored various measures, including expanding polling locations abroad and introducing alternative voting mechanisms such as electronic or postal voting. Nevertheless, the determination of the electoral framework rested with the Ukrainian parliament, indicating that the choice was as much political as it was technical. Amid fears of Kiev succumbing to pro-Russian factions, Zelensky's government proactively sought to diminish the influence of parties and entities that they perceive as Kremlin proxies. This strategy aimed to prevent potential adversaries from gaining a foothold in Ukrainian politics, reflecting the administration's broader concerns over national sovereignty and democratic integrity, or at least that is what they think democratic integrity means. In Ukraine, the landscape of political parties underwent a significant transformation with the prohibition of all 11 so-called pro-Kremlin entities accused of jeopardizing the nation's sovereignty. Among these, the opposition Platform for Life, recognized as the most prominent pro-Russian faction, sought to overturn this ban through legal channels. However, their efforts were thwarted when the Ukraine Supreme Court validated the prohibition in September 2022. Additionally, the Ukrainian government, led by President Volodymyr Zelensky, took decisive action against individuals perceived as conduits for Russian influence, notably Viktor Medvedchuk, who had been identified as a primary liaison to Russian President Vladimir Putin within Ukraine, along with 3 other parliamentarians, was stripped of his Ukrainian nationality. These measures were grounded in accusations of collaborating with Moscow and disseminating Kremlin-endorsed narratives. So much for democracy. The reaction from the European Union and Western allies to these developments presented a paradox. Their vigorous support for Zelensky, ostensibly in the pursuit of upholding democratic principles, raise questions about the coherence of their advocacy for democracy, particularly when such actions contravene democratic ideals. Amidst these controversies, the much-anticipated electoral contest in Ukraine failed to materialize. Despite the disqualification of opposition and sidelining of members within his own political party, Zelensky refrained from proceeding with the election. The decision came in the wake of the Ukrainian parliament's ratification of a further 90-day extension to the martial law in February 2024, a move that by extension precluded the possibility of holding elections. The issue of Ukraine's postponed presidential election has also drawn comments from Russian officials. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov made cryptic remarks regarding the legitimacy of Zelensky's presidency post-May 21, echoing concerns raised by Vasily Nebenzia, Russia's ambassador to the United Nations. According to Ukraine's legal framework, the presidential election was scheduled for the spring of 2024, but the prevailing martial law instated since the onset of Russia's military actions prohibits electoral proceedings, further complicating the situation. So post-May 21, 2024, Russia will cease to consider Zelensky the rightful president of Ukraine, and after that, they are free to do whatever they wish to do with the man. As we talk about exit or the possible firing of Zelensky, it is worthwhile to discuss why guttermouth Alexei Danilov, former head of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, was unceremoniously dumped by Zelensky. This video explains why.